Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rinkus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you. Everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
And whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Even better, all of our guests are local small business owners who you can actually talk to and work with. You can learn more about today's guest and connect with hundreds of other health and wellness professionals through our informative and easy-to-use directory at motherhoodalliance.com.
Before we get started, keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personal healthcare advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes based on the podcast content.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Are you ready to help your family thrive? Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Andrea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Elisabeth Potaczek, the owner of Soul Echo Yoga based in Appleton, Wisconsin. Elisabeth brings a truly holistic approach to everything she teaches by blending her backgrounds in yoga, massage, and functional personal training to create classes that are unique and have intention behind every movement. Her specialties include functional yoga, meditation, yoga nidra, and pre- and postnatal yoga, all grounded in the belief that mindful movement is one of the best ways to take care of your body and mind. Whether you would consider yourself a yogi or not, we believe that you'll learn a lot in these episodes as we discuss the history of yoga, styles, myths, and numerous benefits of yoga. When she's not teaching, you'll likely find Elisabeth hiking, strength training, reading a good book, cozying up with her 2 rescue cats, Olive and Remy, or joyfully preparing for a baby in early 2026 with her husband. Okay, it's time for you to meet Elisabeth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Motherhood Alliance podcast. We are back here with Elisabeth. We are really excited to be talking about this episode, functional holistic yoga. This is something that I am finding very interesting. Functional and holistic tends to be kind of like a buzzword if you're looking at, like the health industry, wellness industry. And this episode is really going to be building on the previous episodes that we've been talking about. So if you guys haven't listened to those, definitely go back and listen to those too. As we get started here, I guess I want to know from your perspective, Elisabeth, what does holistic and functional yoga mean to you? How is it different than what somebody else would be thinking about in a traditional yoga sense? Or is it the same? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, great question. And thank you so much for having me, ladies. I'm really enjoying our conversations. So for me, yoga, the practice, especially here in the West, when it's very condensed to our physical asana practice, I felt like something was missing, when I would just show up to a class and we would do these postures and whatnot. And so the way that I teach is I kind of include a lot of information from all of my various backgrounds. So I have a degree in exercise science. I went to massage school and personal trained for a long time. And that's kind of where the word functional came into my world, was when I was personal training. We did a lot of like functional movement patterns, or a lot of like combination dynamic exercises to not just, you're not just doing a leg extension, you're doing a lunge or a squat. So you're using your body in a natural position, right, and just
in
loading.
Ways that you do in everyday life. That's why it's functional.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's kind of where the term functional works for me. And I've incorporated it into my sessions where, we'll do chair pose, which is like a squat, but we might do kind of a moving chair for a little bit with our breath and then hold, versus just sitting and holding right away. So, there's benefits both ways, but sometimes you need a few squats to warm up before you sit and hold.
Hang out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, that's kind of for me where the functional came into my practice and how I teach. And then holistic, I felt just where, I was going or who I was being taught by. It felt very not monotonous, but just kind of like, okay, we're here to warm up the body, move the body, stretch the body, get into it. And I was just like, I feel like I want, I had that yoga glow after class and everything, but I was just like, I feel like there might be something more. And so like the more continuing ed I did on different aspects of yoga, like pranayama, breathwork, and meditation and mindfulness, I was just like, I really feel like I need to teach that more within my classes and offer more than just physical yoga classes in my space. So for the holistic portion, it just came from like a natural space of me personally wanting that on my journey, and then being able to share that with others and seeing if that felt good for them too.
So is that how you speak to the class, how you kind of explain the poses and things like that? What does that look like?
I talk a lot about how we use our bodies and being aware of our movement patterns, or, if I ask, if we want to work on anything, a lot of times it's neck, shoulders, hips. And, that for obvious reasons in the industrialized age that we live in and the sedentary society we have, it's really important to make that connection and to focus not just on, hey, we're going to do pigeon pose to open up your hips, but we're going to breathe into it. And I might give you like a little mental story to distract you so that you can really soften into it, or things like that. So
yeah, absolutely. I love that. And you mentioned breathing, and we did say in the last episode, we were going to dive a little bit deeper into this.
Yep.
Yoga breath work. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, some like a basis to like kind of get into that would be to start with the 8 limbs.
Okay.
And then you'll kind of see where it all fits.
Perfect.
So,
let's do that.
Yeah. So in the Yoga Sutras, which is one of the ancient texts where yoga comes from, the physical asana practice that we call yoga here in the West is only mentioned 3 times. And it's really just the physical practice. So the first limb are the yamas, the ethical principles. The second limb is the niyamas, the personal observances. So that's the book club that we're doing that we mentioned in a previous episode. And then we get to the physical practice. That's the third limb, the asana practice. So while it's important, it's only part of the path.
So just a quick, is this like when you go to a yoga class, is this kind of where you start with these 8 limbs? Like you kind of go through it? Or is this something that like a background?
It's a background.
Okay. For understanding yoga and like what you're really trying to get out of all of it.
And this is more hatha yoga style. Like there are so many different styles of yoga, like Bikram and different, but most of what we practice here in the West is based on hatha yoga.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so then after we have the physical practice, we have breath control or pranayama, that breath work. So once you have those mastered, then you just kind of move down the list. After breath work, we have some inner practices like withdrawing the senses, pratyahara, concentration, which we've talked about, that mental stamina. Dhyana is concentration, focusing the mind. Then we have meditation, dhyana. So I'm saying the Sanskrit terms for these because this is how I learned them, and it kind of goes hand in hand with those.
And what would be the definition of meditation here?
Deepening the state of concentration and achieving inner peace. So like obviously you need that mental picture before you get to that.
Yeah, I can see how all this will build. Like you need to kind of understand and master, or be close to mastery on each of these, practicing each one of these and getting better at it. Yeah. Before you really get good at the next one. Mm-hmm.
And the final one is making that connection with the divine, whatever you call that, God or the universe or whatever. But samadhi, as we call it, like pure consciousness, being one. That's kind of like the hierarchy of where yoga like principles come from.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's obviously all good. As an instructor, you learn these things and it's good to know, but then how do you apply these into your actual class? Like Joy was saying, is it something where you're, like you said, it's almost like a ladder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're kind of building on each of these and mastering them as you go and introducing the next piece when you feel ready. So is that something you are able to bring into classes, or is it how do you do that?
Absolutely. So I think I mentioned in the last episode that I tend to start all of my classes with just breathing, just connecting with that breath. So that, that's the start of your breathwork practice, is just that awareness, that coming together of your body, your breath, and your brain. I say a lot instead of mind because I like alliteration.
Yeah.
So, and we continue that breath work, as you mentioned in a different episode, Britt, about like holding a pose and being uncomfortable in that pose and using your breath to help you with that. So that's how you continue to practice using your breath as we move through the physical asanas. And then a lot of times, like in final resting pose, relaxation, shavasana, whatever you want to call it, that can be kind of where more of that meditation or breath work can happen. And really the mindfulness and being aware of that meditative state. Like when we do like more of a flow class, a vinyasa, I always say like it's a moving meditation. Like I cue people into like thinking of their movements as meditation, because meditation isn't just like, a lot of people will say that meditation is stillness and sitting still and not listening to anything. Not thinking.
And it could be, but
it could be, but I like meditation to me can be so much more than that.
Oh, I love that.
And I know that you took a lot of these limbs and put them into a blog article and wrote it for Motherhood Alliance. So that's on your Motherhood Alliance profile. I believe it's called the 5 Holistic Yoga Practices to Reset and Reconnect. And so in that, you talk a bit about each of these pieces, and I'd like to kind of break those down a little bit more. And you start with the holistic yoga piece. So when you're talking about these 5 holistic yoga practices, how did you kind of come up with these 5 when there's 8 limbs? And then just break them down for me.
Yeah. So I didn't really include the yamas and the niyamas when I did the holistic yoga practices, because we can do a deep dive. We could do an episode on each one of those individually. I didn't have enough room really and I wanted to make something that was accessible, but also so I had my husband read the blog before I sent it over, and he's like, it's great. Like, he's like, because he doesn't do yoga and he doesn't.
It needs to be relatable, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to scare people off with seemingly woo-woo stuff or whatever,
right.
Yeah.
And, there's nothing wrong with different types of yoga. Like when I, the classes I was attending where I didn't feel that holistic, like they were still great classes, So it's like, if that's your thing and that's what you want, great, go for it, go do it. If you're looking for more, they're out there, so that incorporating that, the holistic yoga is me taking different pieces of the whole yoga practice, the 8 limbs, and incorporating them into the one class so that you're touching on everything. And I'm doing it in a way that you don't really, before we had this conversation, you might not have known about all this stuff, and you would have just come to class and you'd have been like, oh, that was really cool,
Yeah.
So,
well, that's what a good yoga teacher, a good instructor will do, is make sure that everybody's getting what they need and they don't even know that they need it, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I know with the meditation piece, you talk about how it doesn't necessarily have to be like clearing your mind, because that's so hard for people to do. But it can also just be like present in the moment and noticing things that are around you. And instead of thinking about the past or the future, just like being present. Is that accurate? Is that kind of a piece of meditation for you?
Meditation and mindfulness go hand in hand in my book. Like that was one of my trainings with Yoga Fit, was mindfulness and meditation, where we talk about just incorporating that awareness, that present moment awareness into your life. And how can you do that? And how can you make it a habit? So yeah, meditation for me, I have a very loose definition of meditation, whereas like I've had other instructors who are like, no, it is sitting and doing nothing. And and I use Insight Timer personally, but even that was poo-pooed, and I was just like, okay, like,
well,
sure.
This is your point of where you can make it your own, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do for meditation?
Currently I put it on before I go to bed at night. I used to do it first thing after I got ready in the morning. I would do it while my tea was brewing. Now that I'm expecting, I can't meditate how I used to. So I'm just like, I need help sleeping.
Yeah.
So, that has shifted. That's been an interesting journey, but I almost always use Insight Timer. Sometimes I listen to music. Sometimes I just use the timer function.
Oh, sure.
And, sometimes I do it once a day. Sometimes I do it twice a day, 3 times a day.
Is Insight Timer an app? Is this what we're talking about?
It's a free app.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
But there's so many. There's Calm, there's Headspace.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, there was a meditation app Super Bowl ad. And I was like, this is so freaking cool. I was like, wow, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
From my parents thinking I should have been a hippie to this is mainstream now.
Yeah.
But meditation can be anything. When you make your coffee in the morning, my husband does the pour over, and that can be kind of meditative. And that mindfulness. So I have my day job at the clinic where I do some aid stuff and some front desk stuff, and I was folding towels one day, and I was like, I'm gonna mindfully fold these towels. Because who likes laundry?
Right. So what does that mean? That's a great example of a real everyday life thing. What are you doing differently when you're being mindful about folding the towel?
You're just present with what you're doing. You're in that towel. It's just, that's all there is.
Does that mean that when outside thoughts are coming in, you're kind of saying, hello, not right now? And
Yep.
you're just observing the towel? Are you just noticing details about the towel? Does your mind actually think about nothing? Or is it still noticing things, but it's just being present?
That's perfect, because your brain's job is to think thoughts. So it will always be thinking. That's what I tell people in class too. Your brain's job is to think thoughts. So when the motorcycle drives by on College Ave,
you notice it and you let it go.
Yes. Or folding the towel, you're noticing the texture of the towel, and you're not oh, this towel is nicer than the towels I have at home. You're not going there. You're stopping that. You're oh, this towel, it smells clean. It feels soft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been trying to work on this a little bit more with my kids as well. And I wouldn't necessarily have called it mindfulness, but it's more of just noticing the details of life. So if we're sitting in the backyard and we're having a conversation and I'm just you guys, look at that tree. Look at the colors of the leaves. How many leaves do you think are on that tree? And it's maybe not to the depth of what you're talking about, but it's more of taking a moment to notice the little things around us and appreciate the beauty behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And just how mind-blowing some of the things are that are around us, but we never notice them.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to take long. It's just a few moments of being
a beautiful
present.
Sunset, a beautiful sunrise.
Yes. I mean, those are perfect moments. Everyone can appreciate that, but taking advantage of those kinds of things and just noticing the colors and then thinking in awe of our earth, Yeah. It's amazing.
And I think it kind of circling back to more Christianity or Catholicism, saying a prayer.
Yeah.
If the only prayer you say is thank you, that's enough. And
gratitude.
Yes. As I, put on my meditation before I go to bed at night, I'm thank you. Thank you for my job. Thank you for this home. Thank you for my family. Just give yourself space to feel that. And that's a form of meditation and mindfulness.
With the breath work, I'd love to hear what you do for yourself there as well, because we talked in the last episode a bit about breath work within yoga,
Mm-hmm.
And how that can really be something that takes time, right?
Yes.
To practice and master. But then what about breath work in everyday life? Are you kind of conscious of your breath and how it's going in your day-to-day when you're washing dishes and when you're doing this and you're going here and there? Do you take separate time aside to focus on breath work? Tell us about how you're bringing this into your life.
Yeah, I have in the past. I'm not currently doing a separate breathwork practice. It's more of that alignment and awareness during the day, especially at my quote unquote job, because it can be a little stressful dealing with patients or, doctor's offices. And and I'll find myself being a shoulder breather, a chest breather at work. And I will literally just step into the back office and just take some belly breaths and just calm myself down. Or sometimes I'll do it in my car before I walk in. So for me, it's creating that pause between transitions and being mindful. So that's kind of how because breath work for me personally is extremely intimidating. Even though I've taken continuing education courses on breath work, to me, like retaining breath or holding breath or trying to breathe in a certain cadence is very stressful to me personally. And
that's interesting coming from you too. Somebody wouldn't expect to hear that from you. Yeah. And, when you say stuff like, I take those couple of breaths before I go into work, or if I notice my shoulders are, really tense or I'm breathing up, I take a moment to go back. That goes back to the power of practice.
Yeah.
Because you're noticing you're breathing through your shoulders. You're noticing you're starting to get stressed out, or you notice like this is the time when I'm transitioning.
Yeah.
And then you take that moment. So again, I think that when we practice more of, just be more mindful of our surroundings, be more mindful of our situations and things like that, we can, it's like a trigger to be like, okay, this is a good time for me to just take a couple deep breaths and then go into it.
Yep.
I love that.
So that's oftentimes what I do, like out in the community when I do the volunteer work with Prevent Suicide, Fox Cities, or NAMI. I will do like a very short, just gentle breath practice of 5 to 10 deep breaths. Just sitting and putting your hands on your body and feeling your breath in your body, because it's so powerful. And I think because of the power that the breath holds, I think that's very intimidating to me as a practitioner. Like, I don't know enough about breath work to take you on a huge journey that I've, like a lot of instructors there's so many different styles of breath work, so many different retention patterns and breath patterns that you can do. I know basic like box breathing or like elongating your exhalation. And that's what I focus on when I teach breathwork classes, is just getting people a little more comfortable with some of the easier things. I don't do the deep dive into the massive breathwork because I'm still learning.
Well, and like I have Headspace and I do need to use it more, but there is so many options. And for example, that app, right, where you can do the easier stuff. So you say, just like what you're doing.
Yeah.
But then if you really want to get into more of the deeper stuff, you can, and there's more of that. And I would agree. I feel kind of uncomfortable with holding my breath for, 7 seconds and then releasing for 10 or whatever. That almost makes you feel like I'm going to lose my breath. Like it makes you uncomfortable. But again, it's practice, right?
Yes.
And it's so beneficial. Love it.
Well, and I know the fifth piece that you bring into that blog post is the active relaxation. So that actually seems like counterintuitive, active relaxation.
Yeah. Oh.
So like, what do you mean by that? Is that yoga, like where you're finding movement through a relaxation practice, or can you explain that a little bit?
It's our slower practices, our yin yoga, our restorative yoga, our yoga nidra, yoga nap, because it's so healthy. Like, our world is so fast paced and we don't need more hot vinyasa flow. Somebody's really not going to like that, but this is just how I feel about it. Like, we're so stressed out. We need time and space to digest what we're seeing, what we're living through. And like, the more relaxing practices are going to give us that space and time. And they're going to be uncomfortable if you're not used to it, but they're going to benefit your body. It's that balance, like you're go all day. Now, if you have a really relaxing job, go nuts with the hot vinyasa flow.
I laugh a little because I'm like, who has a really relaxing job?
Maybe a massage therapist.
I don't know. Like, even then, you're
still
standing
physically
and
taxing.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I feel like this has been such an interesting episode in and of itself, because I think it's just inviting people to slow down and try these things, right? No matter where they're at in their life, no matter what age they are, no matter what their beliefs are, things like that, like you can try these things. And it almost was an episode where I kind of thought we'd be talking more about like holistic functional yoga, like in a studio, but we're really talking about bringing it into our everyday moments, right? So I think your perspective is so beautiful. I love that you're so easy to talk to. I hope that people know that if they have questions about anything we've discussed in our 4 episodes, like, you are an open book and you are inviting for everyone. And so we do always love to kind of end our series with a guest just by learning more about what's in the future for you. What does Soul Echo Yoga hold in the future?
Yeah, I'm so excited about just being a space in the community that offers something a little different. You know, like I hear like the question I get asked every time when I say I own a yoga studio, do you do hot vinyasa flow? And I'm like, no, we don't turn the heat on. Like, we have heat. We're not cold.
We don't have icicles.
But like when it's 90 degrees outside, we have the air conditioning on. So I just really, and I'm so thankful for my business partners. They offer a lot of different events, like sound healing journeys, mantra music, ecstatic dance. So I love that we're not just a yoga space, that we're offering those different types of breath work, meditation, book club to, you know, like, if that physical practice isn't your thing, come try these other practices that can be just as beneficial. Feel included, feel like part of a community. I will mention, we are a sober facility, so we don't, like, I used to do a lot of yoga and beer or yoga and wine. That is not our jam with the mental health aspect. We really want people to feel like you're in your true state. You're not in an altered state when you come to be with us. And so we can get that authentic connection. I think authenticity is huge. And that's probably why I'm so open and, you know, willing to talk about whatever. So I don't mind being vulnerable. I don't mind sharing. I'm so excited for how we're going to grow into the Appleton community.
And I think you're so good at meeting people where they're at, you know, because people are coming and looking at yoga with their own lens of where their life has taken them and where they see the future going. And I hope that you guys, if you have not listened to the prior 3 episodes, you go back and listen to those, because I learned a lot. I feel like we discussed really good principles that we can bring into our everyday life, even if you're not ready to hit the yoga studio. Like, there's so many things you can learn from these episodes, and especially bringing into your kids' lives and helping them before they get sucked into the speed of this world, helping them know how to protect themselves and slow down and be self-advocates in a lot of these arenas and areas.
It's so important too. It's so important. All of this.
Yes. Thank you, Elisabeth, for joining us for all 4 of these episodes.
Thanks for having me. It's been so fun.
If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.